Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today and welcome to the webinar series on the occasion of PlayStreet's 10th year anniversary. My name is Pranjali and I'm a special educator and psychologist at PlayStreet. As you all may know, PlayStreet is an organization that provides educational services to help the child with special needs become independent and live up to their potential. We also offer parent empowerment programs, integrated schooling programs, and a variety of clinical services. This year marks the 10th running year of PlayStreet. So we have decided to bring you a series of 10 webinars which will talk about small things to do at home to see many big changes. Today's expert is Miraclyn Lydia, and she will be talking about the importance of body awareness. Miraclyn is an occupational therapist who has specialized in the field of pediatrics. She is very passionate about working with children, and she believes that every child is unique in his or her own way. She also feels that understanding one's own body and the way it functions helps children in learning other skills better, which in turn will help in achieving the desired outcomes. I will now hand over to Miraclyn. If you have any questions, kindly use the chat box. We will have a small Q&A at the end of the webinar and where we will answer all your questions. Thank you so much. Miraclyn?
Thank you, Pranjali. Good morning, everybody. I hope the last previous week's session was useful. So this week we will be looking at body awareness. So we move on to what is body awareness. So body awareness is how conscious and connected you are to your own body. So that means it's how you know what position or what movement your body parts are making. So for example, if I move my hand up, so I know that, okay, my right hand is moving up. So that awareness and knowing what position my hand is, what movement my hand is doing in relation to, okay, which joint is moving, which muscle is moving. So that is body awareness. And also it is also the person's ability to recognize a sensory signal from inside the body. So it's not just the external stimulus, it's also the internal stimulus also. So what are the types of body awareness? So there are three types of body awareness. So one is interoception, proprioception, and spatial awareness. So interoception. So interoception awareness is a person's sense of their internal systems and their effect on the body. So when we talk about internal, that is interoception, so we talk about our feelings, our emotions, hunger, thirst, pain, and all of that comes under the interoception awareness. So knowing what we are feeling and what do we need to suppress the feeling or to satisfy the feeling that we are getting. So that is interoception awareness. So this contributes to an individual's emotional awareness and as well as their overall health and wellness. So when we talk about emotional awareness, like understanding what emotions I'm feeling. Am I feeling happy? Am I sad? Or am I angry? Why is it happening? And what can I do to satisfy it, to bring it down, to regulate myself emotionally? So that helps in that, and also overall health and wellness. So knowing when I'm hungry or when I need to eat, and at the same time when I'm full and when I need to stop eating, what I have to eat, and all of that comes under the interoception awareness. So the next is the proprioceptive awareness. So that is the ability to understand how a person's body is positioned without looking directly at it. So if I'm moving my hand, so if I'm moving my hand to take something, I don't have to look because I know this pen is on the right side of my body. So I need to move my hand like this and take it. So don't need to look at it. So without looking at it, if I understand what position my body is, where my hand is placed, so that is proprioceptive. It also helps an individual understand the force with which they should move. So for example, if I have to take a plastic cup of water, I need to understand how much force it requires. I can't give too much force. The paper cup will crush, the water will spill. So I need to know how much force is required, what is appropriate amount of pressure or force needed to take the paper cup. So that is proprioceptive awareness. So this type of awareness, it lets a person coordinate their movements appropriately and accurately. So then the third type of body awareness is the spatial awareness. So spatial awareness is a person's ability to understand their body's position within space. So am I standing too close, or where is the phone? Is it behind it? Is it next to it? Where do I keep it? Should I keep on top of it? So all of that, understanding the position within space. Okay, so if I have to, so for example, the laptop is in front of me. So if I have to touch the laptop, I know that's in front of me. So I need to move my hand in front. So understanding where the things are and how to move accordingly is spatial awareness. So this allows the person to interact successfully with the environment, avoiding obstacles and manipulating objects. So if we are walking on the street, knowing where there is a stone or where there is traffic, knowing to wait and walk, or knowing to move around a pothole and go, all this comes under spatial awareness. So this type of awareness allows a person to picture a 3D environment and coordinate their movements within that plane. So when we talk about a 3D or a 2D environment, so if we are new to a place, we use maps. So having a good spatial awareness helps us to understand which direction we have to go. Where do we have to take a turn? Am I going in the right direction, or am I going in the opposite way? So all of this comes under spatial awareness. So why is body awareness important? Why do we need to know about it? So knowing about body awareness, or having a healthy body awareness, it helps us to understand how to relate to objects and people at home, at school, and outdoors. Also, knowing how to pay attention to your body, it helps in maintaining a better balance and stability. So when we are aware of the body, we can move very precisely and more efficiently. So knowing how we are going. So if we are in a place where we are walking and we see there's a couch there. So if I walk straight, I know that I'm going to hit the couch. But knowing to move around it, go around it, that will help me plan properly to walk. So body awareness is important for those. So what are the building blocks of body awareness? So the most important things, the building blocks, are the integration of the various senses. So we have 8 senses. So we have the visual, the auditory, tactile, gustatory, olfactory, proprioception, vestibular, and interoception. So visual is the eye and the other things related to it. So understanding what I'm seeing and how am I processing it. So if I see the shape of a square, and am I processing it as a square? Or if I see a color red, am I processing it as a red color? So all of this comes under the visual sensory. And then auditory. Auditory is what I'm hearing. Am I able to process it properly? So every day, even now, so I am talking to you, there are also other background noises. There'll be fans, there are traffic outside and all of that. But am I able to process all of it and pay attention to the person who's speaking? So that is auditory. And then tactile. Tactile is knowing when I'm being touched, or did I get a pinprick? Did I hurt myself? It's paining. All of that. So if somebody touches you, am I able to feel that, okay, somebody has touched me? Am I able to acknowledge it? Am I able to feel different temperatures? Am I able to differentiate between hot and cold? Am I like knowing when to touch something? Will it pain? Will I feel pain? All of that comes under tactile. And next is gustatory. So gustatory has to do with taste. Understanding different tastes, knowing what taste it is. Am I eating sweet, or is it spicy? Is it bitter? Knowing all that comes under gustatory. And then we have olfactory. Olfactory is the smell. So differentiating between 2 smells. Is it a good smell? Is something burning? Or is the food good, or has it gone bad? So differentiating that, understanding what I am smelling. So all of that is olfactory. And then we have proprioception. So proprioception is the pressure at the joints. So when we are walking, when we are jumping, so when we do different activity, we give different pressure at various joints. So if we are there's difference between walking with our feet flat and walking on toes. So when you walk on toes, the majority of the pressure comes at the toes. Whereas when we are walking with our feet flat on the ground, the pressure is evenly distributed. And also, it not just relates to walking. So when we are touching something, when we are holding something, what is the amount of pressure that we need to give? or when we are playing a game. So if we are playing a tug of war, do we know the amount of pressure which is required to pull the rope? So all of that comes under proprioception. And next is vestibular. So vestibular is the ability to balance the body in a moving environment. So, for example, if you are walking on a balance beam, or if you're going in a bus, when the bus is moving, when the bus hits a speed breaker, are we able to balance ourselves? So the ability to balance ourselves, even when the environment is not stable. So that is vestibular. And interoception, so all the others are external, whereas interoception is an internal sensory. So knowing pain, hunger, thirst, feelings, emotions, and all of that is interoception. So what is meant by sensory integration or sensory processing? So the term sensory integration, it refers to the processing, integrating, and organization of sensory information. So the inputs that we get from the environment or within ourselves, are we able to process what we are getting? So the ability to know, understand what the input we are getting, what the sensory stimulus we are getting, and integrating it. So we have to understand, like interpreting, like how or what is the exact stimulus we are getting, and organizing in order to respond to it. So if a hot water or if a hot water falls on my hand, do I understand that, okay, it's hot, now I need to wash it off, it's paining for me, so am I able to understand that hot water has fallen on my hand, I need to wash it off so that it cools down, and if it has burnt, I need to put some ointment on it. So basically understanding, so understanding the input, and then interpreting it and organizing it to react to it appropriately. So that is sensory integration and sensory processing. So what happens if there is a problem with sensory processing? So there are three types of disorders that can happen if we have sensory processing disorder. So first is the sensory modulation disorder. Then we have sensory-based motor disorder, and the third is the sensory discrimination disorder. So we will see all of this in detail in the next slide. So the first is the sensory modulation disorder. So sensory modulation, as in, are we able to regulate how much we need, or are we able to understand how much we need to regulate ourselves? So this is under two characteristics. One is the threshold and the regulation. So threshold is the neurological threshold of how much we require, how much of the sensation we require. And the regulation is how much of self-regulation we are doing it. So the threshold can be high or low, and the regulation can be either passive or active. So if you see this quadrant over here, so the threshold is high, but the self-regulation is passive. So it requires the input, the threshold for the sensory is very high, but then the child does not do what is required actively to reach it. So when there is passive self-regulation and a high threshold, we have something called as low registration. So this type of children, you will see like how they require a lot of stimulus. Like if you have to call them, you need to be very loud. Even if you talk in your normal voice, they may not register it, they may not look at you. Or if there's some sound which occurs, even if it is right next to them, if it is not too loud, they will not react to it. Or they may not understand, they may not know that they stepped on an obstacle. They may not know that. So all of this comes under low registration because it does not get registered for them, like there is an input that is coming and I need to respond to it. Unless it's a very, very high input, they don't respond to it. So that is low registration. And the next spectrum, we have high threshold and an active regulation, active self-regulation. So that is sensation seeking, sensory seeking. So you would have seen kids with sensory seeking where they will continuously keep seeking for the sensation. So the most common sensation that children seek are the proprioceptive and vestibular. So they keep jumping around, they keep running. They will not get tired. If you keep them, if you make them sit on the swing, they will keep swinging for a long time. And if you make them sit, they'll have this body rocking, or with hand they'll keep doing this, or jaw clenching, and all of that will be there. So for these kind of kids, the requirement, the sensory requirement is very high. And also the kids actively go seek so that they could regulate themselves. So that's why you see a lot of kids with proprioceptive seeking, they will toe walk, because that the toe walking that they do gives them the pressure that they are seeking. So they keep toe walking. So that is one example of sensory seeking. And then the other quadrant that you have is the threshold is low, but passive self-regulation. So that is sensory sensitivity. That means even a slight amount of threshold, a slight amount of a sensory input would give them over, it would overwhelm them. But then you have passive and active regulation in that. So when it is a passive regulation, that is sensory sensitivity. So kids, children will feel discomforted by the input, but they will not actively avoid it. They will tolerate it to some amount. So that is sensory sensitivity. So if they hear a sound, they'll go this, but they will not run out of the room. But you will see them closing their ears and sitting, trying to avoid it. So that is sensory sensitivity. Whereas low threshold and an active self-regulation results in sensory avoiding, which means they will not do that activity or they will not stay in that room at all. Even a slight amount of noise or slight amount of change in the pressure or temperature, anything will overwhelm them so much. Even so when it comes to crowd at home, if there are more than 2 people, there are more than 3 people, that would overwhelm them. They will not be around that. They'll keep running around. They'll go to a place which is calming for them, which is safer for them. So this is sensory modulation disorder. So in GIST, you have low registration, sensory seeking, sensory sensitivity, and sensory avoiding. So then you have something called sensory-based motor disorder. So here, there is no connect between the brain and the body. The mind-body connection is affected here. So they will know, they'll think, okay, this is the movement I'm supposed to do. But when it comes to doing it, when it comes to executing it, they will have difficulty. So because of that, they'll have a balance problem, they'll have gross motor, fine motor coordination, because the eye-hand coordination is affected. The hand-leg coordination is affected. Bilateral coordination is affected. So when they do a task which they are expected to do, it becomes clumsy because they're not able to coordinate it. And they will be able to do an activity or a movement which is familiar to them or which they've practiced again and again. But if we change the same movement and grade it a little bit more, they won't be able to do it. Or if you're teaching them a new activity, new movement, they will have difficulty in it. So under sensory-based motor disorder, you have 2 types. So you have dyspraxia and you have postural disorder. So dyspraxia is when the child experiences challenge when doing a task. So there are 3 concepts when it comes to doing a task. There are 3 steps. So one is the ideation, the other is motor planning, and the third is execution. So ideation is having an idea of what I am expected to do. So for example, if somebody tells us to brush teeth, we know, okay, I need to take the brush, I need to put the paste on, I need to do the strokes, I need to do the inside strokes, and I need to spit it and all. So we know the ideation. That is ideation. Then is the motor planning, how to execute it. So I take my hand, so I take the brush, I take the paste, I keep it on the brush, and then I do this movement, I do the inside strokes, I do the inside strokes here, and then I spit. So that is motor planning. Planning along with the ideation, linking the motor movements also. So that is motor planning. And then the third task is execution, actually doing the task of brushing. So this is the 3 steps in doing a task. So children with dyspraxia have difficulty in one, either they'll have difficulty in ideation or motor planning or execution, or they'll have a combination. They may not know how to motor plan. So because of that, they'll have difficulty in executing the task. So that is dyspraxia. And then you have postural disorder. Postural disorder is when the child's ability to operate their muscles and move their own body is affected. So you may have seen children where they just flop themselves. Even like when you ask them to sit, they would just lie down. They'll be very clumsy, very floppy kind of thing. So if you ask them to do a motor movement, like if you ask them to walk or do an obstacle course, or you go up the stairs and come down, they will not be able to do. So most of the times we mistakenly term these children as lazy. They don't want to do, they're just lazy because there's so much of energy involved. But what we don't understand is they have some sensory issues happening. Either they're not able to balance themselves, they're not able to coordinate themselves, so because of which they appear to be clumsy, they appear to be very lethargic, they appear to have no motivation to do motor tasks. So this is where we need to really think, is my child lazy, or does my child have any sensory issues, which is why my child is not able to do a task. So more on this topic will be covered in the next webinar, which is happening next week. So I'm not going into detail into this. So then we have sensory discrimination disorder. So sensory discrimination is ability to distinguish between two things. So for example, if we take auditory, right now I am talking, whereas there is a background noise of traffic going on, a calling bell ringing and all of that. Am I able to discriminate between those sounds, and am I able to understand which is important and attend to it? So that is discrimination. Or when it comes to visual, am I able to differentiate between red and blue? Am I able to differentiate between a square and a rectangle? All of this comes under discrimination. So when a child has a disorder, when a child has difficulty in discrimination, they will have difficulty in all of this, differentiating. So when you tell them to find the differences between two objects, they'll have difficulty in that. If you give them a square and a rectangle and ask them, okay, can you give me the square? They'll have difficulty in differentiating that, because their discrimination, the part of the brain where the discrimination happens, like perceiving it as, okay, this is the square, this is a rectangle, that is affected. So because of that, they require a lot of inputs, lot of cues for them to understand what it is. So it's not that they don't know. They know this is square. If you give them separately, they'll understand. They'll pick out a square. But when it comes to two things, the brain gets confused between the environmental stimuli. Or the other thing is, if you give them a red square on a red background, they may not be able to differentiate between that. So all those things come under sensory discrimination disorder. So how does all the sensory integration and the sensory processing, how does that implicate in body awareness? So if they have a sensory issue, they have a sensory problem, children appear to be clumsy. They may not have well coordinated movements. They have very poor posture. So you would have seen children, even if you have a chair which has good back support and all, they'll slouch like that. Or if there's a table, they would tend to lie down on it. So because of the sensory issues that they have poor posture, and then they move awkwardly because they are not able to plan and coordinate between the eye hand or both hands and hand-leg coordination. They move very awkwardly, and they tend to avoid physical activity more because the demand is too much for them, whereas their ability to do it is less. So when there is a mismatch between their skill and the demand, they tend to avoid activities which cause stress to them, and they can't mimic movement. So if you show them a movement of, for example, if you show them jumping jacks, they may not be able to do that. They will either jump, or they will either move the hands, but doing it together will be difficult, and has difficulty learning new movements, especially cross motor. So if they have already learned a movement, so taking the example of jumping jacks, so they've already learned it. If they are habituated to it, they will know how to do jumping jacks. But if you grade it, so usually for jumping jacks, we do one clap above the head. So if you just change it to two claps above the head, it's just one jump, but two claps above the head. And if you ask them to learn it, it'll be very clumsy. They will not be able to learn it. And The other thing is they will not understand hunger or thirst or emotions because their interoception is affected. So they will not understand hunger, nor will they understand when they are full. So they'll keep eating, eating, eating. They will not know where to stop. Okay, my stomach is full. They won't know where to stop. So they'll only stop when somebody else tells them, okay, that's all, you've done, that's it. So they will not understand. They won't understand emotions. They will not know how to emotionally regulate themselves. They not understand, okay, I'm feeling angry, I'm feeling upset, I'm feeling happy. So since they don't know, they won't know to express also. And also unable to maintain balance in an unstable environment. So their vestibular output is affected. So when you make them stand on a balance beam, they'll be very distressed. They'll fall down, or they'll hold on to you so tightly because they're not able to maintain balance by themselves. So these are few implications on how sensory processing disorder affects body awareness. So what can be done? What is the activities, or what are things that we could do? So one is teaching about the parts of the body. So that is the base that you need to teach. So teaching them on how. So, head. So first you can start off with the big joints like head, shoulders, knees, foot, and all. And then you can go into the face like eyes, nose, mouth, ears, and all of that. So teaching them about the body parts will help them understand as to, okay, if you tell a child like you need to move the hand, so they need to know what hand is, or where is my hand, or which side is it, or how am I supposed to move it. So understanding that will help them in making, or in trying to make a movement better. So, so the first tips to improve body awareness is to teach about the parts of the body. And then next, so as we saw, so there are three types. So we have the interoceptive, we have the proprioceptive, and we have the spatial. So giving them an obstacle course to improve the proprioceptive input. So these, the one that I've showed in the video, you might have seen in parks where they have a rope ladder, monkey bar, slide, and all of that. So you can encourage your child to do these things at the park. And at the same time, at home, you don't need big things to make them an obstacle course at home. You can use a pillow, you can use a chair, you can make them jump over the pillow or crawl around the pillow, crawl under the chair, creep under the chair. And so you can be very creative with the things that are at your house, and you don't need to go for things outside. So to just make an obstacle course. So for example, if you have a cone, if you have 2-3 cones at home, just keep the cones and tell them to cross it over. So they're not supposed, they should not touch the cone with their leg, but they have to go across it. So this gives them proprioception because they have to lift and place the feet down. Give them pillows, keep 3 pillows at a distance. Let them jump from one pillow to another. So that is again giving them proprioception. So with the things that you have at home, walking on top of the chairs, from a small stool, jumping down, or if your bed is at a low height, from the bed, jumping down. So all of these can be incorporated to make an obstacle course to improve the proprioceptive input. And then, yeah, playing mirror games with your child. So make them stand in front of the mirror so that they understand where or what movement they are doing. So back when I said teaching them body parts, the most effective way to teach them body parts is making them stand in front of the mirror so they see themselves. So you go, okay, this is your eyes, this is your ears, this is your nose, your mouth, this is your head, your shoulder, your stomach, your knee. So all of that, when they see what you are teaching rather than just listening to it, it's more useful for them. And so you also stand with them, you do an action, let them see how they are doing in the mirror. So and then you again do it, then they know, okay, this is what mama is doing, this is what I should do. And so that would pave the first step in teaching them, in understanding what movements or where should I do, which part of the body should I use. So the next is teaching different emotions to your child. So this is again under interoception. So unless your child understands what emotions they are facing or what feelings they are feeling, they will not know. So you have to teach them. So again, you can use the mirror to show. You can say, okay, smile. This is smiling face. This is sad face. Or you can use different emojis. You can cut out or print emojis and keep it and let them touch. If they are touching happy face, okay, you show happy face. Can you smile? This is happy face. And then ask them to do it. Like, okay, mama showed happy face. Can you show your happy face? So let them smile. And you give at different contexts, you need to show them emotions. So if they get a chocolate, you should say, okay, see, you got a chocolate, so you're happy. Or if they do something that you tell them to do, so you can tell them, like, see, you mama asked you to do it, you did it, so mama is happy. This is mama's happy face. So when you integrate it with the environment, they will understand the different emotions, and they will also understand how or where it is used. If you are sad, you tell them, okay, this happened. Okay, your toy broke, so you're sad. So you need to tell them, you need to show them. And if they are not verbal, if your kids are not verbal, you can always help them point out, okay, so this is sad, sad face. Okay, your toy broke, so you are sad. Okay, so show the emoji. So at any point, like verbal or non-verbal, you can use all the pictures and your face, the mirror, and all of that to teach them different emotions to your children, so that they understand what they are feeling and they would be able to express it. And make your child do different types of animal walks for proprioception and kinesthesia. So there are so many walks, like you have bear walks, you have wheelbarrow walk, you have frog jump, duck walk, crab walk, and all of that. So all of this gives a lot of proprioceptive input for all the joints for your children. So when they understand, okay, so for example, the picture that I've shared here, that is the wheelbarrow walking. So when you tell the child that, okay, wheelbarrow walking, they should know that, okay, I'm going to walk with my hand. So the entire pressure of the body comes to the hand. And also all these type of animal walks are very active regulation, active sensory regulation, because the children can change the pressure accordingly. So giving different types of animal walks, making it fun, making it a game will definitely help in improving the proprioception. And make movements part of your routine. So rather than you just saying, okay, so this is eye, this is eye, this is eye. Okay, can you show me your eye? Instead of that, making it into a song. You have a song, head and shoulders, knees and toes. You make it a tune, you make it a dance. Let them also enjoy. So incorporating music and movement, that is something which is very much better in helping your child learn about their body, learn different movements, learn about the different senses, much more better than just verbally teaching the children. And then give balance activities. So for vestibular, lots of balance activities, making them walk on a balance beam, or if you don't have a balance beam at home, just put a tape, put a straight line, make them walk 1 foot in front of the other, and swinging, balance board, wobble board, all of that helps in improving balance. So making the child stand on one leg, so giving a small stool, keeping one leg on top of the stool, and making the child do some activities, hopping, or just making the child stand with one leg and doing an activity. All of that will improve the balance, so which improves the vestibular. And then providing heavy and light games or activities to teach the amount of force and pressure required for the task. So not, as I was telling, so all the obstacle course and balance activities or all that gives heavy pressure. But you also need to teach your children the difference between a heavy and light pressure. So they need to know. So if I'm playing a tug of war, they need to know that I need to hold tightly and move. At the same time, if they have to take something, if they have to hold a paper cup with water, they need to know that, okay, this needs very light pressure. If I hold it too tightly, it will break, water will spill. So they need to know the difference between that. So you need to give activities or games which incorporates both of that. So you give an outdoor activity which requires more of that, and at the same time, at the house, give them little fine motor skills or a clay or a Play-Doh, Atta, anything that you can give, so that there they should know, okay, this I need to handle with care. If I press too much, it will get flattened. I will not get the shape or it will break. So that difference. So to give activities based on that is important. And then provide fine motor activities to improve finger and hand awareness and coordination. So giving Play-Doh, so holding a Play-Doh with one hand and cutting it, or giving, so you have this kitchen set, the chopping set, which comes with a plastic knife and two fruits together. So let them hold with one hand, use the other hand to cut it, to pull it out. So all of that will help in bilateral coordination. So not only gross motor coordination, but fine motor coordination like finger coordination, finger and hand coordination. So for example, if we take buttoning, for button, we need to hold the button with one hand and use the other hand to stabilize the buttonhole. So knowing that, so using two hands. So for that, we need to give a lot of fine motor activities like threading, beading, taking a peg from from a box and putting it inside, and also different types of pegs. All of that will help them understand the bilateral integration and their own fine motor activities, which will later help in tying a lace or using a zipper, using a button, writing, and all that. And then play games like Twister, hopscotch, which improves all of it, the proprioception, the vestibular, and spatial awareness. Like the Twister is an excellent game that you can give for kids to improve all of this, like knowing here we are using the concept of body part identification, proprioception, spatial awareness, like if they tell, okay, right hand on green, okay, so right hand on which, there are so many green dots, which green dot should I keep so that I don't lose balance and I fall down? Or if there's another person playing, so how do I keep my hand on the green without pushing the person or without like going around the person? How can I keep? So all of this will help the kids with body awareness. And you can create games like parts, or like teaching them parts of the body is different, but actually like in a puzzle, or there is this game called Mr. Potato Head, where they need to know where exactly the eyes go, where exactly the ears go, where should the arm go, or where should the toes go, fingers and toes. Okay, fingers go in hand, toes go in the foot. So all of that, and at the same time, like dressing your doll. Okay, so t-shirt goes on the upper body, pant goes on the lower body, or socks goes for the feet, and the gloves go for the hand. So all of that. So you can give them puzzles where they will incorporate the parts of the body parts with spatial awareness, knowing where to keep it. So they'll know if you give them so if you give them glasses, they know, okay, I have to wear it on my eyes. And if you give them mask, okay, the mask has to go over my ears. And for you give them a lipstick, they need, okay, it goes on my mouth. And if you give them a sweater, they need to know, like, okay, I have to put it on my upper body. So all of that, like incorporating the body parts, the knowledge of body parts, and where it goes, how it goes. So what other things, the other things that you can do apart from all these, the other things that you can do are yoga. Yoga involves the whole body. It has different movements and it helps in body awareness. And then the other thing is movement-based learning. So this is, like I told before, using music and movement to teach kids, to teach children what is to be done, how do they have to incorporate. So like I gave the example, if you're just saying, okay, this is your head, this is your mouth, this is your nose, they may get bored or they may not understand properly. But if you incorporate it with a song, you put a rhyme and you dance along with it, and then you show them, see, eyes, ears, nose, mouth. This is the parts of the body. So they are more open to learning when it is movement, when it has music and movement. And also, you're doing movement based learning, it improves the flexibility. So they tend to be less clumsy, or their coordination gets better. So movement based learning is an upcoming thing which has shown results for children with body awareness problems, children with sensory processing disorder. So which will be learning in the next couple of webinars that we come. And then the last is progressive muscle relaxation. So this can be done once the child learns about the different body parts. So this is for a relaxation. So what they do here is you close your eyes, and there'll be one person instructing you. So they just tell you to tighten. So for example, you start from the head to the toe. So you have to clench your eyes. You have to like tighten your eyes for 5 seconds, and then you relax it. And then you clench your jaw for 5 seconds, and then you relax it. So this is in a very calm state. So teaching, once you taught them body parts and all, when you do the progressive muscle relaxation, so since they are closing their eyes, it gives them a much more sense of their body. So they know, okay, so when it comes to, if they tell me that I need to close my eyes tightly, okay, this is where my eyes are, this is how I'm supposed to close it tightly. Or if I have to clench my jaw tightly, this is how I'm supposed to clench my jaw. Or if I have to make a fist, I need to make a fist. So fist is, I have to make it with my hands. So I need to do that. So all of that will help them in improving their body awareness. So I really hope this was a useful presentation. Thank you. If you have any questions, please feel free to put in the chat box.
First question is from Jyoti Kata. What kind of activities can enhance the interoception?
Okay, so she's asked in respect to emotions. Like I mentioned during my presentation, so you can use emojis like the smiley face emoji, the sad face, angry face. So you start off with emotions that are very frequently used. So happy, sad, angry, tired. So those 4 you can use, or you can just stick to happy, sad, and angry. So, but when you start with one emotion at a time. So if you are starting with happy, until your child understands happiness, you keep teaching the child. So every time you are happy, you take the child and show the emoji saying that, okay, see, mama is happy, and you give them reasons. So if your child did something that made you happy, you tell, see, you did this very well. You did good in school today. Your teacher said you did well, so that made me happy. So mama is happy. So this is my happy face. So that they understand the different. So they understand the different emotions, and also the different settings and the reasons why the emotion is applied, or they will know. So next time, if they get something, if they get a toy, if they get a chocolate, so they'll know to tell that, okay, I am happy. You ask them why, okay, I got a new toy, or I got a chocolate. So they know. So then once they understand one emotion, then you move on to the next emotion, because starting 2-3 emotions at the same time will confuse your child. So let them learn one emotion at a time. Then you go on to sad. So what is sad? This is my sad face. Why are you sad? Because my toy broke. Or when you are teaching, you can say, because I hurt my hand. See, mama hurt hand, so mama is sad because I'm feeling upset. Something. So they know that, okay, if I am hurt, then I'm sad. Or if I'm hurt, I cry. Or those things. And at the same time, different contexts. So if they make you upset, if they did something that they're not supposed to do, then you tell, okay, see, you did this, so mama is sad. So they understand the difference between happy, sad, angry, crying. So all of this, taking it one by one will help them in understanding the emotions. And also you can use cartoons also to show. So for example, if whatever cartoon they're watching, you can relate to it. So you ask them, if we take Peppa Pig, if your child watches Peppa Pig, if Peppa Pig is smiling, then you ask, oh, why is Peppa Pig smiling? Did she go out or she went out? So you can relate to that, and also you can say, okay, see, Peppa Pig is smiling, which means Peppa Pig is happy. So that will help them in understanding and linking the same emotions to different contexts.
I would like to add here, Miraclyn, if you permit me for a minute, here.
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Co-regulation. Co-regulation is very important. Co-regulation between parent and the child is very important for the child to understand about his or her own body. Because the typically developing human beings, they learn about their bodies through their caregivers. So co-regulation is very important, right? So Harsh will be talking about co-regulation, or there are a lot of talks on co-regulation on our Facebook page and our YouTube channel. And I suggest that I recommend very strongly parents should go through that. But one thing I would like to add here is sharing your own experiences with your children about your own interoception is a very important way for children to learn about their own bodies. I'm very tired. Mama is very tired. Mama needs to sleep. Okay. Oh, mama is very hungry. Mama needs to eat. You seem to be hungry. Oh, I think we can eat some idli. Right? So this is the way when you start conversing with your children, you start having, instead of just teaching, instead of just prompting, if you start treating our little children as individuals, and we start having respectful conversations with them, that's the starting point of co-regulation. Idea is not just teaching. The moment I see my child and my teaching button is on and I try to teach everything in the world, that's not the way it works. Co-regulation is the starting point of having a great relationship, a great guiding relationship between you and your child. Hope it helps, especially for interoception. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mini ma'am.
Next question is from Neha Tiwari. How do we distinguish if it's SPD or autism in a non-verbal kid?
So children with autism, they usually have some sensory processing disorder, because the reason why they have a lot of seeking behaviors, or they have very sensitivity to different sounds or lights or everything, is usually because they have SPD. So one of the criteria to diagnose a child with autism is the child will be having some sensory processing disorder. So it goes hand in hand. So I hope I answered. And in a non-verbal kid, yes, you will see, you can pick up few cues and hints, like, they would like to keep jumping for a long time, or they'll toe walk, or if there's a noise, even if it is a regular noise, like if you switch on the fan, they'll go like this, or they'll run, or if it is mixy sound, or if it is a TV sound, they may not be able to tolerate it, or they'll keep producing noises because they enjoy making. Like if you give them a pencil, they'll keep tapping it. If you give them a block, they'll keep tapping it. They'll make noises even without a context. So that it goes hand in hand, because things like this come under the sensory processing disorder. I think Shireen ma'am would like to add a little bit more on that.
Yeah, I just wanted to add here, when you're especially talking about a child who's nonverbal, and there are many times that children with who are nonverbal, or I would rather say non-speaking, have been diagnosed with autism when it's actually not autism, and it is more dyspraxia and a sensory processing disorder. So it is difficult to differentiate between the two initially, but you are also looking for those, the social communication, that because children with dyspraxia do not have a difficulty with social communication, and you do not see them I mean, there's a distinction between the two. So that is what we start noticing. I'm not saying it's easy in any way, because initially when they come to us, it is quite difficult to figure out whether it is autism or whether it's dyspraxia with sensory processing difficulties, meaning is it autism with sensory SPD or is it dyspraxia with SPD? Because both cases you would have children who are non-speaking. So it is important to notice, I would say, and parents to be aware and just keep noticing their children and seeing how they are picking up, and slowly maybe we can kind of help distinguish between the two. But there is no like this, and that's what will put you under autism with SPD for a non-speaking child, because especially for a non-speaking child, it's extremely difficult to figure out the difference. But keep noticing. As parents, you know your children best, and that's why we do these parent empowerment programs all the time and these webinars, so that you're more aware about what you could notice about your child. Yeah, go ahead.
So our next question is another question from Jyoti. Does W sitting come under postural disorder? How can we work on that?
W-sitting can come under postural disorder, and it can also come. It can also be because the child is proprioceptive seeking. So there are two aspects to this. So when your child is in W sitting, so we usually say till 2 years of age, W sitting is okay. But beyond that, we need to make them ready. We need to reduce the W sitting. So instead of making them sit in W sitting, you can make them change posture into a side sitting or ring sitting, or you can even make them to sit with their legs straight. So all of this will make them come out of the W sitting. So mostly you start off with side sitting, because the W sitting and side sitting, where both your legs are bent towards one side, your both knees are bent towards one side, that would help at the start of when you want them to come out of W sitting. And then once they come out of it, and then you need to give them a lot of verbal cues. And you can also use visual cues, like, making them sit in front of the mirror to see how they are sitting and how they can change the posture to a side sitting or cross-leg sitting or on a chair sitting. So all of that. And then initially when you are teaching them not to sit in W, you need to give them a lot of verbal prompts, even physical prompts also. But slowly they need to understand that this is not appropriate to do some activities, because like when you want to give them an activity, this W sitting will hinder them from fully bending or fully doing the activity. So you can explain it to them like, since you're sitting like this, you're not able to do this activity properly. Can we change it? Instead of just saying to them, starting like, no, this is wrong, you're not supposed to do this, you have to sit like this only. Give them reasons as to why they are not supposed to sit like this. So give them reasons which they will understand. So you give them a game, but in a W sitting, which is difficult to do. So you tell them, see, this game is difficult to do it like this. So can we change the position? Can we change? Can we sit across leg, or can we sit with a leg straight? So these are some techniques that you can use to make the child come out of W sitting.
We have another question. Subhashri has raised their hand. Can you please ask your question, Subhashri?
Actually, my son is 5 year, completed 5 year, but not yet started speaking. Going to therapies also, and feeding issue is, there is lot of feeding, is not at all interested to have anything. So how I will initiate to speak, ma'am? How speech will come?
So please stay tuned. We will have further webinars on motor planning, and our speech therapist will be doing further webinars. Please stay tuned. You will get answers to all your questions.
Okay, ma'am, one more question. He doesn't respond his name, but if I make sound of chocolate wrapper, then he will suddenly come to the room. I mean, it little bit sound also he can listen, but not respond to names. What type of sensory issue is this, ma'am?
Can I just add in here? I wouldn't call it a sensory issue. I would say it's a motivational thing. A child is intrinsically motivated to do a lot of things, and that's how they learn. We do not do anything because we are not motivated. If we are not motivated to do something, we will not do it. Any of us here, adults, children alike, right? But we tend to think that children are supposed to do certain things a certain way, and it doesn't work like that. So why does he? Because he's attuned to that chocolate wrapper, because that's something that motivates him. So when you call him, he's not so probably motivated to listen. So maybe because calling out after you call out his name is probably followed by some task, some instruction, something that makes him do something which he's not really motivated to do. And so what happens, we tend to take a step back and kind of shut off a lot of the times. So that's something that we always have to remember, that our children respond if they're motivated to respond. And what do we need to do about that is to build their intrinsic motivation to be with you. And that's what Minnie was just talking about, being co-regulated and understanding how to take on those challenges and how to, first want to be there in that situation and then take it from there. So and with respect to what you asked earlier about feeding and speech, those are concepts that we will be covering in the next week when we talk about motor planning. And there is a whole webinar on just feeding too that is coming up. So there you might get some more answers then. You can ask those questions again. If you do not get the answers, please feel free at that point of time to ask the questions. Yeah?
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
No problem.
Okay, so I can see a lot more questions in the chat box. We are running out of time right now. So I would request you all to kindly wait till we we will be posting our webinar on YouTube. So all your questions will be answered in the comment box there. So I will hand over now back to Miraclyn to end our webinar for today.
Thank you, Pranjali. So I hope the past two webinars were useful for you, and thank you for logging in again this week for the webinar. So one more thing that I wanted to add is, like I spoke about the movement-based learning in my presentation. So here at PlayStreet, we do sessions called Learning with Rhythm and Movement. So where we incorporate music and movement to make the child more flexible, more body aware, and more coordinated. So that is something that we do here, and we've seen a good amount of results also. We've seen good improvements. So I would suggest that you would go back and take some time to read about movement-based learning or watch some videos, and you can also try it at home with your child. So, and the last week's webinar is up on our YouTube channel. So please go and have a look, and the questions that were asked in that last webinar would be answered in that YouTube link. We have motor planning coming up. So now that we've learned about body awareness, next is how to use the body awareness to plan activity. So we will have an occupational therapist and a speech therapist bringing you more information on motor planning orally and gross motor, fine motor wise and all. So please do join us next week at the same time, and we will see you. Thank you.
All our social media links are in the chat box. So please do go through them. Thank you.